So I've had a colonoscopy. Is that funny?
It's coming out. It's gonna be the title of the YouTube.
No, it's fine. How'd it go?
Yeah.
Just as you would imagine it. No,
Did
so
you wake up and
pleasurable.
You felt like something was like inside of you?
No.
Like you felt like your insides were like a little less.
It was your butthole like sore at all, or like a little loosey goosey?
Dude,
no, I'll give you the quick
you
rundown.
put your finger in your butthole afterwards.
What?
No, I did not. I swear by life.
That would be weird. I don't. He just got one. He doesn't
Now
need
people are
another
getting
finger up there.
A colonoscopy is when they use the tube with the flashlight and you're
Yeah,
unconscious.
the camera.
You're unconscious.
Well, it depends. So like,
Don't have to
sometimes they can be.
It could be local anesthetic.
You could be
Well, you're
awake.
unconscious under a look.
So like my dad told me about it when he had to get him. It's like he'll be like watching the screen, and like
Oh, fuck
it'll be like a
that.
live feed from
Wait, your dad was watching the screen?
No.
Oh, sorry.
No, okay, no one was
I
in
didn't hear
there. I'm talking about when my dad had his. He told me that he was
okay.
awake and he was watching the screen with the thing was going up his
I don't know
butt.
if that's better or worse.
It's worse because
When you see it enter, that would be worse.
I'll tell you mine. Mine's good. Do you want the whole spill down really quickly?
Yeah.
All right, so
Talk about your colonoscopy.
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 Okay, so I'd say, fuck, I already forgot what year it was. I think it was summer. I think it was summer going into junior year. Yeah, okay, so it was right before summer started. So like my very end of sophomore year, and I was eating a bunch of hot Cheetos. Kind of like, it wasn't like a bad diet, but like if you knew me, like I'd slap down like a few cheeseburgers from fast food places, but I'd like have a salad once in a while. Anyways, it was good. I went to go poo one time, and I like noticed that there was blood.
Pee or poop? You said poop?
Blood.
Yeah, you said poo. I
Okay.
pooped.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I pooped, and I was dropping a dookie, and I went to wipe, and I noticed there was some blood, and I was like, okay, like.
The hot Cheetos.
And that's why I thought. I was like, maybe it's just like the food coloring or the red dye. I was like, all right. So I didn't think much of it. And that was at school. And then like a week later, I had it again, like before finals. And I was like, maybe it's just from the hot Cheetos again. So I wasn't concerned. Went home for the beginning of summer. And then I wiped, and this time it was like a decent amount. So before they were like little trickles, or not trickles, but like maybe like a square centimeter. So this one, when I came back, was like the size of like $50. And I was like, fuck.
You're talking
like,
about on the toilet paper?
Yeah.
You're wiping?
Yeah, because like I like.
Was there shit mixed with the blood, or was it primarily blood?
Dude, I don't look at the
Actually,
toilet
it was a
paper
ghost
that much.
shit. A ghost shit.
What's a
where-
ghost shit?
It just like disappears without trace, right?
Well,
Or
I
did you
was-
not poop at all? You just thought you pooped.
That's not poop. No, a ghost poop, I was told, they are wrong. A ghost poop is when you poop and you don't have to wipe. So you can wipe, but nothing's on there.
Those are the best.
I never trust those. I'd still wipe.
Well, of course,
Yeah,
I
well,
do a
I
secondary
wipe-
shit.
You wipe, and then there's nothing on the toilet.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
Apparently, it's like when you have enough fiber. I don't know if that's true though. But anyways, went to wipe, and it was like the blood was like the size of a $50. And I was like, fuck, like I need to probably get this checked out. So I tell my mom, and she's like, oh my god, like you should get this checked out. So she's like,
she's like,
she's like, dude, you sick fuck. So she's like, I'm like, go call your pediatrician. And I was like, all right. So like I'm like 20 years old, gonna go see my pediatrician, and you're supposed to
Tedford or
like,
what?
yeah,
No way.
that's there.
That's awesome.
Shout out to that place. That place is sick. So,
Tedford's awesome.
anyways, you're only supposed to be. I think you can only be. They try to get you out when you turn 18, but you know,
I was there so
I was
much
still
longer.
there until I was 20. And this lady was like, yeah, for sure. Like,
Come on in.
we'll schedule you for in the morning tomorrow. I was like, awesome. So I show up the next day, and my dad's like, you know what's gonna happen, right? And I was like, no. He's like, they're gonna have to do like an inspection. I was like, okay. He's like, they're gonna have to like feel inside your butthole. And I was like, you just flinch laser. It's just as bad as you think. So she's like, and my dad's like, yeah, like I don't worry, it won't be like a colonoscopy, but don't be surprised if some like person has to like put their finger up your ass. And I was like, no, like this is the first time I'm going. If anything, they'll just like look at it and be like, oh, we might need like a secondary checkup in like a week. So I go over. It's so embarrassing. I go there, and they have like this intern or some girl that's learning, and she's like taking what's it called?
I haven't heard this.
Taking my vitals.
Was she hot?
No, she was super cool.
Okay.
But so yeah, I don't want a hot nurse checking my vitals. No, I'm just kidding.
That's the worst.
So she's like, oh, like, what are you in here? What are you in here for? And I'm like, oh, well, funny story. Like, I'm bleeding out my butthole right now. And she's like, looks at me like, oh, I'm gonna go get someone really quickly and then like, come back and like, yeah, like, she said you have problems defecating. And I was like, yeah, like I'm having some blood every time. And she's like, oh, okay. It's like, well, I don't know, like, what else other than you can tell me. And I was like, well, do you need to do like an inspection or anything? And she's like, well, yeah, we'll probably have to do that. She's like asking how much
So
blood
you're
I need to tell her.
initiating all of this.
Well, because I don't want to have to come back. And also, like, I'm kind of scared now. It's not the first time I've been pooping blood for a little bit.
Yeah.
By the way, I'd like look after I poo, I'd look in the water, and I could see like very faint trace amounts, and it wasn't like the whole like inside of the toilet bowl, you know, like full of blood. That would have been bad. But there's just like small trace amounts, and like I was like, okay. So, anyways, fast forward back. She's like, so I'm gonna do like just a visual look, and then we'll see if we need to do anything else. So she's like, why don't you go ahead and I'm gonna give you a gown and you go ahead and put it on. So I was like, okay. And so I like go put on. She's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have you to take off like all your clothes. I was like, all my clothes? She's like, all my clothes. I was like, okay. And so this lady is like a 70-year-old lady, super sweet,
So-
nice. Yeah, she's older, very sweet woman. But what? So what?
She's probably seen a butthole or two in her day.
Obviously,
Not when there's a man with a stash in her
She's,
pediatrician's office.
like a nurse.
She's got these kids getting big. Were you 14? Sorry, finish.
So you put the gown on.
You put the gown on.
I put the gown on, and I'm like, oh fuck! It only covers like the first half of your body, and it just leaves your whole back and like ass cheeks exposed.
Yes, sir.
And I was like, oh my goodness. And she's like, so go ahead and take a seat. So I take a seat on like the like leather, you know how it's like that pink leather, or other places different colors, but it's like this like tall pink leather bench.
With
Kinda
the
like,
paper?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I go to sit on it. It's just like straight ass cheeks and like ball sack slaps down on it. I was like, it's cold. I'm like, oh fuck.
Ouch.
And she's like, so like basically like standard procedure, I'm gonna look at it. And I was like, okay. She's like, so go ahead and like face the wall. So I like face the wall, and she's like, go ahead and like lift up a leg. And she like lifts up the leg, and I'm just like, this is so fucking weird. She's like, so I don't see any visual like problems, but I'm afraid I'm gonna have to do another test. And I was like, oh. And she's like, so just hold on 1 second. And she has a little roller chair, and she slides back, and I like look over my shoulder, and she goes over to this drawer, and she like goes in, like pulls out K&Y lube. I just see K&Y. I'm like, fuck. And she's like puts it on the little tray, and she like gets her little gloves and does the exact like snapping sound like anyone does the joke like time for your prostate exam or like your test. And I was like, fuck. So
my gosh.
she comes back, she's like, so this is gonna feel a little bit weird. And I'm just like shaking at this point. You know how like those rooms are always cold too, and I'm just like, fuck. She's like, go ahead and face the wall, and you're gonna not feel a slight pinch, but it's gonna be like a little uncomfortable. And like she slid it. Oh my gosh. So I wasn't looking, I couldn't tell, but it felt like there was more than one finger. First time I ever had this happen to my butthole, so it's just not I didn't know what to expect. And she wedges it in there, and I'm like, it immediately like flex. I'm like, and then she doesn't stop there. She goes in like this, and she comes around, and I can't tell this actually happening, but this is what it felt like. Like a long ass like 3 seconds of her like going in like a 12 3 6 9 like on a clock, kind of like all four corners, and then pulls out, and I'm just like shaking like, oh my gosh, I feel like a piece of trash getting like thrown away. And she's like, so I don't feel anything wrong, but what we're gonna do is have you get your clothes back on, and we're gonna give you some little test strips, some little smear things, so we'll explain how to do it later. And so she like lets me put my clothes back on. I'm like still shaking, it's cold. I'm like, dude, I just feel like I got violated. And it was uncomfortable. So that was the worst part of this whole entire thing. So anyways, they gave me these little test strips, and they're like, so I think it was one for each day, 3 days total. And so basically what I had to do is every time I go poo, I have a little like, almost like a like a matchstick, like a thin piece of wood that they give you, and it's like not strong, it's really flexible, which kind of sucks. Anyways, I'm like I had to go poo, and like after I try to fish out a little smear sample, but like not everyone has floaters, right? So I'm like, I poo, and my poo will sometimes just like sink to the bottom. Like, oh my gosh.
He's like,
so I'm like trying to like fish this bad boy out without touching the water. The little sticks are only like that long.
Wait,
so
this is at the hospital?
No, this is at my house.
They send you home with the test kit.
Yeah. And so for like the next 3 days, each day I'd have to like do a little test sample.
3 days?
It's either 3 days, or if it was like a morning, afternoon, night, or like an afternoon, night, morning.
You had to do 3 shits tests.
I had to do 3 little smear tests. So basically, It took a long time. I had to like fish my shit out, which is fucking gross. But I wouldn't touch it. I'd have to use this little flimsy ass piece of wood, get it, and I'd try to smear it onto these little like paper samples, and then seal that, Ziploc it. And then once I had all 3, then I went back and I gave it to them, and then they ran tests because they had to see if there was like traces of blood deeper in my colon, because there might have been like blood in my stool from when it was like further deeper inside. So I get the test back and they come out positive, and they're like, ooh, that's not good. That means that
for what? Blood?
traces of blood deeper in my colon. And they're like, okay, we're gonna have to send you to a gastroenterologist. I'm like, oh, sick. So I go to a gastroenterologist in Templeton, and I'm like waiting there, and like my dad's like laughing, like, oh, you're gonna have to get a colonoscopy probably. And I'm like, no, I won't. So I go there, and my dad's like saying, oh yeah, you're gonna have to get a colonoscopy probably. And I was like, no way, like, no, like my case can't be that serious. So I go in, and the doctor's like, oh, like ask me questions like, how old are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm like 20. And he's like, oh, you're pretty young. I'm like, yeah. He's like, what are you doing here? And I was like, well, I sent in the little sample strips, and they tested positive for each of those 3. And he's like, oh, okay. Like, he's like reading the report from the nurse that like did my like test, and he's like, oh yeah, like doesn't seem to be anything wrong, but you know, I don't want to take any chances, because someone like as young as you are, like we wouldn't want to see any problems with your colon that would like potentially like lead to like bad problems. Anyways, like pretty much he doesn't want to see anything that would lead to like colon cancer, because it's not a good cancer to have. And he's like, what we're gonna do is have you go have the colonoscopy. And I was like, fuck. So he like scheduled this colonoscopy for me, and my dad's like waiting in the waiting room. He's like, and I'm like, yeah, I have to have a colonoscopy. He's like, and so he's like telling me on the ride back, he's like, yeah, like I'm awake. Like whenever I had to get him, like I'd have to be awake, and like the doctor would be behind me, and like I would just see like the inside of like my colon on this camera, and I'm just like, fuck,
it's kind of sick.
This is gonna be weird. So anyways, they gave me Moby Prep, or like I think it was a prescription for Moby Prep. Yeah, I had to get a prescription for Moby Prep. I went to my pharmacy, and I gave them the prescription, and they like looked at it, and they're like, is this for you? And I'm like, yeah, it's for me. They're like, okay, hold on 1 second. And they also gave me Moby Prep, and I think it's magnesium citrate. So basically they're like, take some of this magnesium citrate, and it just like, yeah, it pretty much just makes you shit your britches like super, super quick. So I'm like constantly on the toilet pooping, and then
they just want you empty so that
yeah,
you can see.
And then I take the Moby Prep, and the Moby Prep's gnarly. So basically, I forgot what it was, like when you can't, but like I know for at least for like a few days before, you definitely can't have any like foods, and especially anything with red dyes. So a lot of times you'll be able to eat like gummy bears or like Jell-O. Is that spider? Yeah, it's kind of fast.
That's crazy.
So like things like, I think fruit roll-ups, pretty much anything like
got a lot of dye.
Bears. Yeah, but you just can't have any red food dye, because you don't want to like mistake it for blood. And so this Moby Prep's pretty fucking gnarly. So it takes like really like hot seawater, or like warm seawater, and you'll be like drinking it, and you drink, I forgot what it was. There was like 4 stages that you have to drink every 15 minutes. So you have to finish this like full bottle, probably the size of this. But you finish like a whole size within like an hour. You do like 15 minutes, and then another 30 after 45 and 16, you'll be done. And you have to take it consecutively, and you can't skip. You can't do anything like oh, like I'll just drink like 30, or I'll drink like both halves after 30 minutes. You have to take like strict regimen. So it's a shit show. So basically when you have that, it's just running through your body so quick that like any slight like fart or like any like movement can just release this, and you'll just be like spilling this out your butt. So when I was on the toilet, it was literally felt like someone was like shooting a hose out of my butthole, like a hose.
Wild.
And I was like, you have no control. You can't like close it. There's no stopping it. It's literally just shooting out.
Is it just like water just shooting
Well,
out?
at first it's like definitely murky because like it's cleaning everything out. But by like the second bottle, it's like crystal clear. Like it looks like
You drink it.
And you're doing this at home.
Okay.
You have to
I
make
would
that.
Would you shit, or would you do it and then filter it through a Brita and then drink it?
Laser. I would never do that if I had the choice not to. There's no reason why I would do that.
For $2,000, would you?
No, that's
Drinking your own
2,000.
crap for 2,000.
For one cup,
I wouldn't even
A
drink.
full cup.
I wouldn't even drink like
like a
creek
pint,
water
like a
for
pint
$2,000.
glass.
No,
Okay, what about $8,000?
no.
Okay.
You gotta be able to put like a down payment on a house.
What about? Are you serious, dude? I would do this shit for like cheap.
Laser, we can't all
Nah.
be you. You're a different breed.
Two different breeds.
You wouldn't drink your filtered fecal matter through a Brita that's already like.
Britas don't filter that well, dude.
Brita does good.
There are good filters that I would do it through, but not a Brita.
Like,
I wouldn't drink my pee through.
I would drink
dude.
I would drink my pee without a Brita way before I would drink fucking fecal water, regardless of
Okay,
how
I'm
clean it
saying
is.
the crystal clear fecal water
The Brita-
you're talking about. You wouldn't do that for like $8,000.
It's not crystal clear, but it's pretty damn clear. It's
close to
$8,000?
it.
No.
It's like drinking creek water, like downstream from where someone had been like
if
shitting
something
diarrhea.
goes if something goes wrong, $8,000 is not gonna cover it. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
medical
I gotta
expenses
start
need to be
thinking of
covered.
like
And I'm glad you
Even
said
if
that, 'cause
long-term
that
medical
ties into my
expenses
next question.
need to be covered.
That ties into my next question.
yeah.
But
I need to be able to like make something off it after like I spent $100,000.
Profit
100 grand
and an entire new body.
But yeah, I'll try to wrap it up quick. So long story short, pretty much I think I've said that already. Taking the Moby prep, and then I think it's like for the last 12 hours right before your procedure, you can't have any water, which for me I was like, oh.
really good.
Like knowing when you can't have water, you'll get like just thirsty, your throat will get dry.
Sucks.
Dude, Carly's walking around his house like this.
It's just
Well, dude, most of the time
dehydrated,
I was
dude.
sitting on the toilet, I would just watch YouTube videos because the second I would leave, I'd have to go. So I just ended up sitting on my toilet. But
Might as well sleep on it. Dude.
yeah, so anyways, I ended up going to the gastroenterologist, and I have like my appointment scheduled or my procedure scheduled for like really early. I think it was either like 5:45 or 6 a.m. And I get there, and the lady, I'm like the first one there, so everyone's like still getting the work or like setting everything up, and I go ahead and like put this gown on. And I put the gown on, and once again, it's like only covering the front half. I'm like, oh, there we go again. So I walk in, I'm like, am I supposed to go over here? Because I just see all these like female nurses like walking, getting stuff right now. Yeah, come on through. So I'm like walking through, my little butt is like walking like exposed. I'm like, oh my gosh, I bet these like, I hope none of these women are like looking at like, why is this young guy here? Like, so I go around this corner, I sit on this bed, and I'm like shaking because it's obviously, you know, it's really cold. It's cold in those rooms, and I'm like shaking. I'm also nervous. So I'm like tensed up like this. And I'm not trying to like fucking shaking, but I just am. And they're like, oh my gosh, like he's panicking or he's cold. So they get these hot towels and just throw it on my crotch, and I'm like still shaking. But they like did the procedure, and they're like, don't worry, like you won't be awake. And I was like, oh thank goodness, because this whole time I thought I was gonna be awake. So they ended up knocking me out, and I woke up, and they're like, it's all over. And I was
Yeah,
like,
nice IV or what?
yeah, I got good IV.
What was wrong with you?
Well, it turns out that I had like an anal fissure. So it's like, I'm pretty sure anal fissure is like, it's like a tear. It's like tear towards like, typically found like towards the exit. So near like the rectum and anus. And so what was happening was like my poos.
Why?
Yeah, I know. I got that fucking joke a lot. Anyways, my poos were like tearing,
Oh.
and they kept on re-tearing that thing, so it wouldn't seal close. Yeah, and so like I was like, basically that's like totally fine. Like that's a good thing to have.
An anal fissure?
Yeah, like you
Those
those
are
will
other
heal.
things that could have been.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
better
So
than cancer.
Did you get it healed up?
yeah, so he's like, basically this is something you just gotta let heal on your own. Definitely like have more or
Softer stool or what?
yeah, he was like advising like, what's your diet? Maybe change it up a little bit.
Less BK.
Yeah,
Is that why we stopped eating BK so much?
definitely
we used to
one of the
lunch
reasons.
that.
Yeah, But yeah, it heals. I mean, actually, like recently, like a week ago, I reopened
Your hole?
my fissure.
Usually because of your
Wait, are you
blood.
serious?
Yeah, it's not bad. It was just like some small trace amounts of blood. And I was
So
like,
this is like an ongoing problem.
it was like 2 years since, but it's not bad anymore. Like I'm good now. It's been a few days, but a week ago it came back.
So
I
you
just had a
change up your
friend.
diet or what?
I had a friend from school that knew about it, and she sent me this like meme about anal fissures, like something about like only the or like someone was talking about them, and like only the elite know like what an
gosh.
anal fissure is, and like had them.
It's funny.
I was like, yeah, that's me.
Probably because you've been crossing people over in basketball or something.
Too hard, dude.